According to a recent report released by the International Monetary Fund, India is no longer the fourth largest economy in the world. In fact, we have slid to the sixth position. Now, what have been the reasons behind this fall? And is it actually a crisis-like situation for the Indian economy? In this session, let us try and look at answers to these questions. Hello students, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyoliar. Let's get started. So a new report has been released by IMF, which is the World Economic Outlook. And this report says that India is no longer the fourth largest economy in the world. In fact, we have now moved to the sixth position. So we know that in last year only, 2025, India had overtaken Japan to become the fourth largest economy, right? Fourth largest economy in terms of what? In terms of nominal GDP. Correct? So we overtook Japan in 2025. We became the fourth largest economy. And now this new report has come in which says that we are no longer at the fourth position. In fact, we are now at the sixth position. So the current ranking is US, China, Germany, Japan, UK and India. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the current position. And for that, the data that has been given in the report, it is that in 2026, India's GDP will be around $4.15 trillion. And if we compare it with the data of 2025, definitely the numbers are up. In 2025, it was $3.92 trillion and now it will be $4.15 trillion. But we'll have to look at the comparison, right? So UK's GDP will be $4.27 trillion, up from $4 trillion. And Japan's actually would see a fall. Japan's GDP will see a fall from 4.48 trillion in 2025 to 4.38 trillion. Despite the fall, Japan is ahead of India and UK. That is why Japan is at the fourth position. So our numbers have seen a dip. So we'll have to understand the reasons behind the dip, and then we'll also have to see is it like such a big concern for our economy? Is it a crisis-like situation or not? So if we look at the change over here, why this sudden change? Why did our numbers fall? So we'll have to understand that we are talking about the nominal GDP, correct? We're not talking about PPP, we're not talking about real GDP, we're talking about nominal GDP. And IMF, when it does its ranking, it actually does it at the dollar level. So it calculates the GDP of all the countries at the dollar level. So two steps take place. One is that country's GDP in local currency is seen. Whatever the country's GDP is in local currency, in India's case, whatever our GDP is in rupees. And then we have to look at the exchange rate also. Exchange rate with dollars. Only then we'll be able to get a picture in dollars, correct? So first we also have to look at the currencies, our GDP at local currency and then the exchange rate. And in both these fronts, we have seen India to be at a deteriorating position. So our GDP in our local currency also saw a fall, and our exchange rate, dollar and INR exchange rate, has been deteriorating for a very long time. So what has happened is that the base year very recently for GDP calculations, it was changed. From 2011-12, we moved to 2022-23, correct? Now, even though the changing of base year is not going to have a direct implication on nominal GDP, because we are not drawing any comparison over here. This is being calculated at current prices. So it is not going to have a direct impact, but it is definitely going to have indirect impact, because for calculation of GDP, this total production of goods and services, we are not actually doing entire physical work. We are not collecting this data physically. There are estimates, there are surveys, there is some guesswork that is happening, and that's when things can go a little off, right? And that's what we also understood, that when we recalculated everything, because our base year changed, some survey methodologies changed, we moved towards better data accuracy, better data reporting methods. We realized that some of the sectors were being overrepresented. Most importantly, the informal sector, the self-employed sector, that was being overrepresented at some cases. That's why we saw that even our own GDP in local currency, that also fell. So the 2025 figures, they fell from 357 trillion rupees to 345 trillion rupees. in our local currency also the GDP fell because some sectors were being overrepresented, because now we have moved towards better, more accurate data reporting tools. So some data calculation that was actually based on old methodology, it was not that accurate. That's why our data was being misinterpreted. So that is one reason. And second reason is that our exchange rate has been hitting its lows every time. So right now also the exchange rate is somewhere around $1 to be 92.92 rupees. So this actually keeps on changing, it keeps on fluctuating, and it keeps on hitting its record low. So this exchange rate is also not working in our favor, and that's why we see that our GDP has been, the levels or the amount of our GDP, the price of our GDP, that has been falling. And that's why we are no longer at the 4th position. We have moved to the 6th position. But is this a very severe situation for the Indian economy? Is this a crisis-like situation for the Indian economy? So no. This is about data, and we'll see that the 4th, 5th and 6th countries, the ranking 4th, 5th and 6th, they are actually very close in their data. So what happened even earlier, like in 2022, we overtook UK. So India overtook UK, and back then the ranking was US, China, Japan, Germany, India, and then we had UK, right? In 2022, we overtook UK and we came here at the 5th position. Now, this was being seen as a victory because of the colonial history that we've had with the British. We saw it as a great step that we were able to overtake UK's economy. And then the goal was to overtake Germany, right? Now, before we could overtake Germany, Germany overtook Japan. So the new rankings became US, China, Germany, Japan, India, and UK, right? And then last year in 2025, we saw this also shuffle and we moved to the 4th position. We moved to the 4th position. Now, the reason that I'm saying, I'm telling you all this is majorly because when you look at the last 3 economies over here, they keep on fluctuating because they are very closely spaced. If you look at this table, so you will see Japan, UK, and India, there is not a lot of difference in their data. 4,379, 4,265, 4,153, they are very closely situated. So this shuffling keeps on happening every time there is some change in data reporting, any change in the methodology, any change in the survey, even slightest of the changes has the capacity to reshuffle this area because this is very closely spaced. There is still a difference, 5,453 and 4,379. Germany and Japan, they still have a difference. But Japan, UK and India, they are actually very closely spaced. That is why this reshuffling of ranking keeps on happening. So no, it is not a crisis-like situation for the Indian economy. Our economy size has seen a dip, but our economy has not shrunk to that level. The data has changed because the data reporting methods have changed and the exchange rate has changed. And because of that fluctuation, we are seeing this issue, but not majorly because our, the production of goods and services has gone down or Indian economy is not growing. That is not the case. This is just reshuffling of data. So right now, the current ranking is that we are at the 6th position, but it will not remain like this forever. We have the capacity to again overtake UK by 2027. We can come back at the 5th position and again at the 4th position somewhere around 2031. This is what the current estimates look like. This can also differ. This is just a projection. So right now, this is what the year analysis looks like, that by 2027, we should be able to overtake UK again. Now, let's see what happens in the near future. But for now, for our exams preparation, it is important that we take care of this ranking, that India is right now at the 6th position. The top 2 are US and China. So that was all for this discussion. Now we will look at a practice question for prelims. And before we do that, we have this course for you, which is the Studio GS Foundation live online course. Now, because this is a foundation course, your syllabus for prelims and mains will be covered. So you'll get 1250 plus hours of classes. You'll get printed class notes, live chat facility, and a complete course coverage in 14 months at 34,999 rupees. And if you have to avail a further discount on this, then you know you have to use a coupon code, which is SALONI, Saloni, all in capital letters only, and you will be able to get the maximum discount for yourself. So the admissions are already open. Please call us at 87501 87501, or you can also download the Drishti Learning app. Okay, now let's move on to our question. With reference to the recent change in India's position among the world's largest economies, consider the following statements. 1. The global ranking of economies is based on GDP measured in purchasing power parity terms. 2. A depreciation of Indian rupee against the US dollar can reduce India's GDP size in dollar terms even if domestic growth remains strong. 3. Revision in GDP base year can lead to changes in nominal GDP estimates. Choose the correct statements. A, 2 only, B, 1 and 2 only, C, 2 and 3 only, or D, 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.